Welcome back to part 2 of our tutorial on 360 video editing. So in the first part we covered some basic 360 video editing techniques such as changing the brightness, combining photos and videos, adding transitions. And now in part 2 we're going to cover some special techniques for 360 videos. So let's start with leveling the horizon. Sometimes you see a photo like this or a video like this where the horizon is not level. See here, for example, it's level, but here it's not level. And for 360 photos and videos, this is a big problem because if you look at it in 360 view, and let's say you're a viewer looking at this perspective, and then you look to the left, suddenly the horizon rotates in an unexpected way. If you look to the right, again, it rotates in an unexpected way. And if you're wearing a headset, this is going to be very uncomfortable and can lead to nausea. So we need to level the horizon in order to avoid discomfort for viewers. So to do that, we click on the item, select this. I'm using a photo here, but the same technique applies to videos as well. Then I'm going to click on Effects. And under Effects, we're going to click on 360 Video, and then click on Scene Rotation, 360 Scene Rotation. Click on Apply Effect. Now we're going to adjust the sliders until we have a level horizon. So now the horizon is level when you see that all the vertical lines, such as the edge of this house and the edge of this wall, the corner of this wall, are all truly vertical. So that, in other words, all vertical lines should be truly vertical. Now this is pretty much level. See, on this side, this is perpendicular. It's totally vertical, and this one is also totally vertical, as are these lines. Now if we switch to 360 view, and I turn left, yep, it's behaving normally. So we know that this was correctly leveled. So you've just learned how to level the horizon. Now let's learn how to stitch 360 photos and videos. You recall that in part 1, I said that the standard format for a 360 photo or video is a rectangular frame like this in 2:1 ratio, and it looks kind of normal in the middle, but as you move to the edges and the top and the bottom, it becomes increasingly distorted. So this is the equirectangular view. Now, sometimes if you take a photo or video directly from the memory card from a 360 camera, it's not always going to come out like this right away. In most cases, it looks like this, like two circular fish eyes. And we can stitch this using the software provided by the camera. Almost all 360 cameras include stitching software. But if you're using Magix Movie Edit Pro Plus 2018, it comes with a built-in stitching function so that you don't need to use the stitching software from the manufacturer. And the benefit is it's faster. So let's try to stitch this one. This is from the Ricoh Theta V. So I'm going to select it, import it. Now that it's imported, I'm going to select that video and go to Effects tab, go to 360 Videos, and then click on 360 Stitching and Apply Effect. So there are several presets for popular cameras such as Samsung Gear 360, LG 360 Cam, and Ricoh Theta. By default, applied Samsung Gear 360. Let's take a look. Don't worry about the horizon yet. We just want to see if it's stitched correctly. It's stitched more or less correctly. We could also try the other presets that search for LG360M. This looks identical. Pico theta. This one, actually, ironically, it doesn't work. That's because this is for the previous versions of the theta. The theta V's orientation is slightly different. So let's use the Samsung Gear 360 version, and we can try to adjust these parameters, see if we can improve it a bit more, and we can looks like this is the best aspect ratio. It looks like that's the best alignment. That's just changing the position. Now you could also experiment with this checkbox. In this case, let's leave it on. Now it's stitched in the sense that the two circles are merged, but as you know, the horizon is not level, so we're going to use scene rotation just like in the previous exercise to level the horizon. So one tip is if you see one bend here, that's that one U-shaped bend, and then another a hump like this, yeah, that's a pretty good place to be because it makes it easy to correct. So, and then we can click to switch to 360 view, and this is more or less level now. So that's what this 360 stitching function is like. Now, of course, your mileage may vary based on what camera you're using, but at least this is an extra tool to have just in case you need it. So now let's learn to add titles to a 360 photo or video. In Magix, you can add a title by clicking on this title editor, or going into effects and then go to title editing, click on that tool. Either way is fine. So here we could type, hello world, and let's make it larger. So if we look at it in a 360 view, this is how it looks like. Now you notice that even though the text was straight here, in a 360 view it appears to be curving around the middle of the video. And if we move this further up, let's say over there, and then we switch to a 360 view, we see that's very distorted. Same thing will happen if you move it down here. So essentially, the further you are from the horizon, the more distorted the text will be. So what if you wanted to place a title without distortion? So Magix has a function that can help you do exactly that. So first we select the title that we want to edit, and I'm going to go to effects and then go to 360 video and then click on 360 editing, and then I'm going to click on activate 360 editing, and you'll see this function that we're using is called position an object in 360 space. So that text was automatically warped so that when you look at it in 360 it will be straight like this. Now if you want to move it somewhere else, you simply reposition the camera, let's say to that view or this view, and then you click on direction of view, and the text appears there. Or if you want it to be even in the zenith, you could do that. Now you can also refine this further by using these um, numbers, these to change the axes, and you can use the perspective slider to make it move on the z-axis. This technique applies not just to titles, but it could be to pictures as well. So if you wanted to add a photo or video that's not in 360 and you kind of want it to look like a floating photo or video within the 360 photo or video, you can use this function as well. So that's how to add a 360 title or photo or video to a 360 video. Now let's learn how to create Tiny Planet style videos. So thus far we've been working with a 360 photo as if it's going to be viewed as a 360 photo or video, but now that we're going to use Tiny Planet, we have to switch to a different view. Now we're going to switch to the same kind of view as a normal video, which is like a full HD video. So we're going to create a new project, and we're going to set it to let's say NTSC at 19. So this is full HD at 30 FPS. So now that we're in the regular non-360 view, we can import a 360 photo or video that we want to convert to Tiny Planet. Here's a 360 video in equirectangular format. If you're going to create a Tiny Planet video, then this is the format that we need. Now let's convert this to a Tiny Planet video. To do that, let's select the video, go to Effects, go to the 360 video tools, and the tool that we're going to use is 360 editing. But this time you'll notice that, and then we click on Activate 360 editing, you'll notice that it's now called Select Section of Panorama rather than Place an Object in 360 Space. That's because we're in non-360 mode. You recall that we set it to a regular non-360 video rather than one of these 360 videos. So the software recognizes that the output that we want is a regular video. So we're actually looking at the crop of the 360 video. Now let's convert this to a Tiny Planet. To do that, we click on Super Wide Angle and we increase the perspective. Let's say to 300, and we use these axes, we change them. That looks like a rabbit hole. This is a Tiny Planet, and that's all. So now there's 90 degrees, there should be a Tiny Planet, and click play. And we can rotate it if you want. And that's how to make a Tiny Planet. And to do a rabbit hole, you simply rotate it the other way. Here, -90. And we press play. So that's how to create a Tiny Planet photo or video in Magix Movie Edit Pro Plus. So now let's learn how to transform a Tiny Planet. You recall in the demo clip I showed you some transformations. So like here, for example, it started out in this view and it's changed to this view. So the way to do that is through keyframing. If you're not familiar with keyframing, it means that you specify an effect with a particular setting, and then that's the starting point, and then you show the ending point with the same effect, and then the PC will figure out the intermediate steps from the start to the finish. So now let's use keyframing to transform our tiny planet. So here we are, we have the tiny planet video here, and we're going to transform it. So to do that, we select the video, we click on effects, and this time we're going to use scene rotation. Now you recall that we've used scene rotation before to level the horizon, but now we're going to use scene rotation to transform our tiny planet. So we click on scene rotation, click on apply effect. Now you see on the bottom of the settings, there's a section of the screen here that shows the various effects that have been applied to this video. And this is what we're going to use for keyframing. So for keyframing, the first step is to move the marker to the point where we want to begin the change, let's say here. And then we're going to make changes to the X, Y, or Z axis. If you don't make a change, if you just leave it at 0, clicking on this will not create a keyframe. So you have to change it a little bit, even though later on we're going to set it back to 0. We can set it back to 0. So now that we've changed it, we can click on plus, and if we click on this drop down, then we can see that it created a keyframe for the y-axis, and we can click on x-axis to make a keyframe there as well, and another one on the z-axis. So now we're going to move the marker to another point in time where we want the transition to end, and then we change the settings. So let's say here we're going to do that and that. Just have fun, be creative. Now if we go back to this point, you see that the computer has now created a transformation from this view to this view. And you can make as many keyframes as you want. You can make another one here, for example. Change the axis again to whatever view you want. And there's the transformation. Now another thing you can do when you're keyframing is you can click on this interpolation button, and by clicking on this, it changes it. Instead of a smooth motion, it becomes like an easing in and out. So here, for example, you'll see that it's going to accelerate, then it's going to slow down. If this was just simply straight, it would just be a simple smooth motion. And that's how to use keyframing to make transformations to your tiny planet or rabbit hole, photo or video. Now, the next topic is we're going to create a reframed 360 video, or what GoPro has called the overcapture. When we say overcapture or a reframed video, it means that we're going to show a 360 video like this one, as if it was from a non-360 camera. And the advantage of that is, for example, you can show smooth panning movements like this, or you can show multiple perspectives. Like in this case, the camera is facing me, but later on the camera is facing forward, and this is all from one camera, from the same camera. That's one way to use a 360 photo or video. So now let's learn how to use the overcapture effect. So let's start with a regular 360 video, and we're going to select it. We're clicking on it. We go to Effects, and we go to 360 Video, and we go to 360 Editing. And we click on Activate 360 Editing. And don't worry, even if it's blurry, that's just the low-res proxy file for faster editing. So here you can just change the angle to the angle that you want. So then you play, and then you can create another, you can create a transition here. You can cut to another view here. So we click on this to split the object. It creates a cut. And then we apply another view. Let's say view 4. And then we add another view. So here, that did not look good. So switch back to this. So now, here's how it looks. Start out with that perspective. We switch to the front view. We switch back to this view. So that's an example of using a 360 video just to show the various perspectives in a non-360 format. Now, you can also use keyframing when you're doing this to create camera movements. So, for example, from here, let's say we want to pan the camera from facing this way to facing another way with me on this side of the camera. We can do that. So just with the previous exercise, we select this object, go to Effects. We've already selected 360 video. Now we're going to click on Scene Rotation, click on Apply Effect, and then, as you remember, we're going to modify just slightly the parameters that we're going to change. So then we're going to click on plus to create a keyframe, and then I'm going to rotate it, or I'm going to move the marker. So let's say the panning ends there, and I'm going to change it. So now you see that we've created a panning motion from here to there, and we can use a Bezier curve to make it ease in or out of the panning movement. So it's going to accelerate and decelerate. So that's how to use the 360 editing function of Magix along with keyframing to create overcapture style photos or videos. So congratulations, you've now completed part 2 of the introduction to 360 video editing, and combined with the lessons from part 1, you'll be able to create the same effects that I showed in my demo video over here. And we covered a lot of material, so feel free to go back and rewind, pause, Listen to it as many times as you need, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. So I hope you found this video helpful, and if you don't have a 360 camera yet, check out the description for a link to a guide on how to choose a 360 camera based on your budget. For more information on 360 cameras, accessories, and techniques, go to 360rumors.com and please subscribe to us on YouTube. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.